Pleasure to introduce our speaker today. His name is David Watson, and he attributes most all of his entrepreneurial success to his father, who he happens to have with him today, Dale Watson. If you want to stand up to him, all see. David currently owns interest in 10 Sonic drive-ins, a real estate company, a construction company, a self-storage facility, and a mortgage company. Now, he owned a lot of other Sonic units, but he sold them all out. He'll fill you in on the story of what transpired there. He began his career with Sonic drive-in restaurants as a car hop while in school in Clarksdale, Mississippi. His father, Dale, began his Sonic career in 1972 when David was just 12 years old. David received his B.S. in Business Management from BYU and a Master's degree in Business at the University of Memphis. David married Anita Hyatt in 1982. They have 2 children, Danielle, who was 24, and Terry, who was 19. Danielle and her husband, Blake, just recently gave birth to their first child, so that soon that'll be the first grandchild. Whether you get great grandchildren. David has finished 5 Ironman competitions. He loves swimming, biking, running, golfing, basketball, softball, motorcycle, racquetball, wakeboarding, and anything that's a sports activity you obviously see. He did serve a mission in Canada, French-speaking mission, while his wife served one in Cordoba, Argentina. It's my pleasure to turn the time over to David.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ed. How about them Cougars? Ow! We've got a couple of football players in here right now, and just want to congratulate them. Do I have to point this thing, John? John, we're not working. There it is. Yeah, that first slide that I just showed you is my email address. If you ever want to email me, ask me any questions, whatever. Take my cell phone number, but don't call me. I'm kidding. You're welcome to call me, too. I flip burgers for a living, and you know what? Not very impressive to be able to say that I flip burgers for a living. In fact, when I married my wife, her father, which is my father-in-law, was not happy about that at all, that's what I want to do is flip hamburgers. He was a surgeon. Can you imagine? He's a surgeon. His son's a psychiatrist, and his other daughter married this big real estate guru who is an attorney. And here, his favorite daughter is marrying a guy that's flipping hamburgers for a living. Not good. I hope that when I show you the last slide today about me flipping hamburgers for a living, that you'll appreciate it more. As Ed said, I did Sonic drive-ins in my career. My dad was a big Sonic guy. Sonic has had an outstanding past and hopefully have a great future as well. In 1972, when my dad started in Sonic, there were only 200 or 300 of them. And now there's 4,000 restaurants, so it's pretty cool. This next slide is supposed to make you hungry and want to eat there. I've got coupons for everybody. John, you're going to hand those out back there. Free hamburgers, free drinks, combos. We've got 3 coupons for everybody, so help yourself when you leave. You're welcome. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Thank you. One time I actually brought hamburgers to the lecture series, but they were cold and they were kind of gross, so I didn't do that. So just go down to Sonic and get you something free whenever you want. I love Sonic, and that's why I do Ironman races, because I'd be 300 pounds, because I still eat at Sonic almost every day, and I absolutely love it. I'm supposed to talk about 5 phases of an entrepreneur's business, and the first one is concept and planning. And to take you way back in this concept of Sonic and the planning that I did as a BYU student, I need to take you further back than that. As Ed mentioned, I started working at Sonic at 12. My dad is with me. He's never been to one of these before. He started at Sonic in 1972, back when there were only a couple of hundred of them. And he had a little drive-in place called Herman's Pigpen, Herman's Drive-In, in Seminole, Oklahoma. And a Sonic moved in across the street from him. And he realized that Sonic was the upcoming chain, and so he jumped on board with them and became a Sonic franchisee. Now, all through high school, I loved working there. because I could like feed my friends for free. So I was popular because I worked at Sonic. And so that's kind of where I grew up at Sonic. I loved Sonic. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. There's Joe Nabrotsky. What's up, Joe? Thanks for coming. Hey, I knew what I wanted to do my whole life. There was no question about it. I wanted to do fast food. This was my dad's very first Sonic. If you see that old Oldsmobile, it looks like a 65 model or something. But that was in 1972. And that's what it looked like, believe it or not. Hasn't changed a whole lot. You know, we got the siding and the brick and stuff and the neon lights, and the menu housings are even bigger now. But for the most part, it hasn't changed that much. That's my dad when he had a little bit of hair. And this is my brother. He spends more time in jail than out. But my brother Sam, he was working at Sonic way back then as well. That's me. Check out the do. Check out the do. That was me working at Sonic. That's me when I figured out I probably ought to cut my hair. And I was an assistant manager at Sonic here. I think I was 17 years old in that picture. So that's my dad. One thing I wanted to point out in this picture, this is a Sonic 30 years ago. But this setup you see right here, the grill and the station over here, identical to today. Every Sonic, they had a great system, a great franchise. And even today, the setup is still the same. We make the hot dogs in the same place. It's been a great chain. That's me working at Wendy's. I got mad at Sonic and thought that I would go to Wendy's because I thought that would be even better. I proposed to a girl in the walk-in at Wendy's when I was 19. She was sitting on top of the Frosty boxes. I proposed to her. She said no. I went on a mission. Went on my mission when I was 21. That's me on the far right. And just really changed my whole outlook on life and what I wanted out of life. And I was so glad I went. Learned to speak French. That's my sweetheart, Anita. Met her and came to BYU. That's me. I know, 170 pounds. Looking good. Came to BYU. I was telling the lunch group before, my freshman year at college, I was 16 when I graduated high school. In Mississippi, anybody from Mississippi? Nobody, good. In Mississippi, if you can write your name, you graduate from high school. That's how bad the academics are. They rank 52 in the nation for academics, the state of Mississippi. So I graduated high school at 16, went to the University of Mississippi, and ended up with a 1.4 GPA my freshman year. I'm thinking, whoa, school's not for me. So I went to work, traveled all over the country working for Sonic and whatnot, and then met my sweetheart right after my mission. A great story, I get off my mission, and you go report to the High Council, and the state president was her dad. So I'm reporting to the High Council, and I give this great talk, and I bear my testimony in French with a southern accent. And you go and you shake all the High Counselors' hands. You guys have done this, right? You shake all their hands, and you get released from your mission and whatnot. Well, as I shook the state president's hand, he slid a note into it and patted me on the back and said, "Call my daughter." So that's Anita. Her dad was my state president. And I married her. I think we got married 8 months later. And she's definitely been the joy of my life. One thing that I told the lunch group, too, that your spouse is so important if you want to be an entrepreneur. Just an integral part of the formula. And I'm glad I married her. She graduated before I did. I got to go to BYU. I increased my GPA before my mission to 2.2 at Ricks College, BYU, Idaho. And so I got accepted to BYU. Check it out, with a 2.2 GPA. I got accepted on probation at night school, which still wouldn't happen today. There's no way you could do that. So I ended up graduating from BYU. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Had a 3.0 GPA when I finished. And so I graduated from BYU. I'm in love with this girl. We're doing good. We had a baby already. And I'm moving back to Tennessee because I want to do Sonic drive-ins. Well, her dad says, "No way. You need a master's degree." Why do I need a master's degree to flip hamburgers? I didn't get it. I thought, I do not need a master's degree. Well, he convinced me to go ahead and do it as an insurance policy in case the burger business didn't work out very good. So that made me want to prove to him that it would work out. So I got a master's degree. And then after my master's degree, I decided that I was too good to flip hamburgers. I got an MBA. I'm a stud. I should wear a suit to work. I should have secretaries and have this great job. So I went to work for Holiday Inn Corporation in Memphis, Tennessee. I worked for them for 9 months, and it was the worst 9 months of my life. I absolutely hated it. And I figured out the reason why I hated it so bad was because I had a boss. And I just couldn't grasp that whole concept. And so I left Holiday Inn, found ourselves going from Memphis to Atlanta to go to the temple, drove through a town called Franklin, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, and found a Sonic drive-in that had closed and had become a liquor store. And we bought this, this is how we started it up. I guess you're supposed to take notes about that. We started this, how we started our first Sonic is what I want to talk about. This is kind of what it looked like after the liquor store guy left it. So it's not real appetizing, is it? Not real appealing aesthetic. I kind of added that Sonic sign in the slide, just kind of cropped it in. But it was a really ugly location. We bought it. The guy actually had sold liquor to a minor, and I think he was about to lose his license. So we bought it for $150,000, the land, building, equipment, everything that was in it. And my dad knew a couple of Sonic guys, and we got the money together, and the four of us became partners. I didn't have any money. I was right out of MBA school and didn't have any cash, so I put in the sweat. In other words, I was the manager and did all the burger flipping, and they invested the money, and they were there with the week it opened and patted me on the back and said, good luck. And eventually, those partners, my dad and I were able to buy them out, and eventually I actually bought my dad out too, which is why he's a very rich man. That's not what it looks like today, but that's a normal Sonic. I just had to show you this picture. This is my daughter, and look, that's in 1989. That's my little daughter, and it was her birthday. So the only way that I could show my daughter how much I loved her was to put it out on the sign that the whole city could see that I loved her, and it was her birthday. And she had her birthday party at Sonic because that's the only way I could go because I had to work. So I started up these Sonics. This one, the particular story you're seeing here, I worked for about 4 years straight, and I put a lot of time and effort into it. There was one month I'll never forget that we had $16,000 worth of bills and no money in the bank. And it's an odd feeling as an entrepreneur, as the owner of your own business, to know that you've got more bills than you've got cash. And I'll never forget the feeling I had one night as I went home and just sat in my living room and cried because I didn't know how we were going to pull out of this hole. And I did not want to go to my partners and ask for more money because my end of the deal was to run the business and make them money, not to go ask them for more. So I'll never forget that very next morning I set out on foot with a stack of business cards. And on the back of my business cards, I had a free medium drink on them. So I went all the way up and down this main street in Franklin, Tennessee. It took me hours and hours and spoke to every business owner. And eventually, as I did that more and more, I became Mr. Sonic in the town. And my business started to grow and things started to improve. And I was able to make money and pay my bills. And I did that for about 4 years. How did I keep my life in balance at that time? My daughter and my wife would come to the Sonic with food. We'd have dinner together at the Sonic if they wanted me to eat vegetables. Back then we didn't have breakfast, so I'd eat a bacon burger for breakfast, a hamburger for lunch, and a chicken sandwich for dinner. Thought that was kind of well-rounded way to eat. So they would bring me food and we'd hang out. I never worked on Sundays. If I didn't have to, I didn't work on Sunday. And there were times when I did, but I would still make it to sacrament meeting or to church. I was able to hold a calling down at church. I was a ward mission leader, which the missionaries loved it because they got to eat there and correlate at the same time. So that was pretty cool. And I was able to spend time with my family. I took Monday nights off. That was kind of my night to take off. I never took off a Friday or Saturday night. We were always busy then. And that's kind of how our life was for 4 years. And it was a little hectic. I didn't do a lot of playing. I did more, mostly work, a little family, and a little church, and very little playing for 4 years. And that was the cost, the price I had to pay for success, I thought. I started to grow. After running that store for 4 years, I got an opportunity to be an investor and a supervisor of 2 other Sonic drive-ins that were close by. And so I was the manager's boss. And for that, I was able to buy 10% ownership into that restaurant. Sonic chain as a whole back then really believed in the managers owning part of the business, that ownership mentality. And we think that was a key to our success as a chain. The managers owning part of the business gave him a lot more incentive when the alarm goes off in the middle of the night, or a lot more incentive to save money on food costs or labor costs. and just run a better operation because they own part of it. So I supervised these 2 other stores, owned mine, and then I finally did the biggest thing I've ever done. I went to a banker who I knew personally, established a relationship with him, a bank account and all, saved a little bit of money with him, and went to him and found a piece of land in Ashton City, Tennessee for $45,000. And then I hired a guy to build a Sonic building on it for $130,000. And then I spent about $100,000 on equipment. So I was all in about $300,000 that I had to borrow. I'll never forget the day we went to the bank and signed this loan for $300,000. This kid flipping burgers for a living. I think I was 30 years old then. We signed this loan, and my wife got sick to her stomach, and she wouldn't speak to me. She was so mad. She thought we were going broke for sure. We built this Sonic, and it ended up being really successful. The first day we opened, this was my 4th Sonic, remember, that I had ownership in, but I owned it 100%. So I was the sole owner, except I gave the manager 20%. So I owned 80%, he owned 20%. I'll never forget the day it opened. We were so busy. It was in this little podunk town in Tennessee called Ashton City. In fact, the county is called Cheatham County, and they had the highest divorce rate. Cheatham, get it? Cheatham County. Anyway, it was the biggest thing since sliced bread in this little town. And when we turned the lights on and said, okay, we're open for business, everybody came. Everybody came for lunch, and we were blown away. There were cars out the street, all the way down the street, waiting to get in. It looked like Cafe Rio on a Friday night. Just crazy busy. And we didn't handle it. We had no idea that many people would come for lunch, so we got blown away. 20-minute orders, 30 minutes for a hamburger. It was horrible. People were yelling at us. Finally, most of the cars left, and I'm in the front of this restaurant, and I start to cry. And I'm getting chill bumps right now. I got so emotional that I had lost everything. These people would never come back. $300,000 in 1989 was a lot of money, and I had lost it all. And I was so scared. I remember the girls coming up to me, putting their arm around me, saying, "It's okay, Mr. Watson, we'll do better when they come back." And sure enough, we changed some things. We parked a bunch of cars in the stalls so we couldn't be busy all at once. We figured that we brought in some more help from other stores, and we handled the rest of the business, and it turned out to be successful. The next 12 months of my career, I built 6 restaurants. That means I went out and found a location, bought the land, hired a contractor to build the building, hired a manager, made him a partner of mine, trained him, hired a crew, and opened a restaurant. I did 6 of those in 1 year. That was busy. That was crazy busy. But that's kind of how we rolled back then. And I knew that all I needed was 7 stores. If I just got to 7, and then if I just got to 12, if I could just have 12 restaurants, then I can back off and let everybody else do the work. And then I wanted 20, and then I wanted 30. And so it just got to where it was an exciting game, and I enjoyed playing it. And so from a growth perspective, what I did was hired managers that were partners of mine, and then I hired another level, which was a supervising partner, and that gave him ownership in the business. That guy didn't even get a salary. He only got profit, the supervisor. He had a percentage of several stores. The manager, I would give him a little bit of salary. I call it beans and cornbread, just so he'd have something to eat in case he was horrible. And then the supervisors, I'd give them some ownership. And that's kind of how I ran the organization, and they all reported to me. And I would drive around and pat them on the back and do what I could to help them. And it was a lot of fun. It was a great career. I eventually got so big that that I just couldn't do it anymore. It was just so big. I had over 1,500 employees at one point in time, and dealing with attorneys and lawsuits and real estate and just all the things I had to deal with. I finally sold 13 stores to one partner of mine, and this partner was a banker of mine that I ended up hiring to be a manager. He ended up being a supervisor, making about $250,000 a year. I ended up selling him 13 stores, and then a few years later I sold the rest of my stores to the guy that owns them now. His name's Greg Maples. It's some pictures of Sonic. By the way, I hate those 2 idiots. I've met them in person, and I don't like them there either. But evidently, they're doing something good because the sales are up, things are going well at Sonic. So I started to grow, got really big, ended up selling. I ended up keeping, Ed said that I have 10 Sonics that I still own a piece of. And my thinking behind that wasn't that great. It was pretty selfish, actually. I was going to sell everything I had, and I ended up keeping 20% silent passive ownership of the 10 stores in Williamson County, which is the town I live in. And my thought was that I would just be able to eat there for free for the rest of my life. That's why I did it. I didn't realize that those stores are so successful that I have a really good income off of that 20% silent passive ownership and no responsibility at all. So that's pretty cool. So I kind of went through all 4 of those steps of how I started, how we grew, how it matured, and then my favorite part was the harvest part, which is the right there, harvest. For me, that just means show me the money, sell them. Here's a profit and loss statement. I thought y'all would appreciate this. At the very top left, in 2005 for the year, this store did $1.4 million in sales. This is the location that my dad and I bought that was a liquor store in 1986. In 2005, 19 years later, it did $1.4 million in sales. In 2006, which is this column, we increased sales to $1.5 million. And then if you'll look after taxes, after expenses, you see your labor, your food cost, your advertising, your co-op fees, all that. If you get down to the bottom, this store made 13.9% profit after the manager got his cut. Where's the manager at? Manager's bonus. That manager made a $50,000 bonus that year. Pretty sweet. Plus, I gave him a car and insurance and salary and all that stuff. So I think he made around $100,000 that year, that manager did. But the store profited $177,000. And what you do in the restaurant business when it comes time to harvest, the typical going price for a restaurant is 5 times earnings. So when I sold this restaurant, I just multiplied that number by 5, and that's about what I was paid for the restaurant that we paid $200,000 for. And that was for the land and building. You don't realize this price is just for the business, just for the Sonic business name and the equipment that's in there. We still retain the ownership of the land and building, which is pretty sweet. Any questions right now? I'll give you a bunch of time at the end, so be thinking of questions. What I did after I sold all my stores, one thing I learned from Ray Kroc. Anybody know who that is? The McDonald's guy, right? Anybody ever read his book? Oh, I highly recommend it. Great book. Horrible hamburger, but a great book. McDonald's. The thing that Ray Kroc said, he was teaching a class, he says, what do y'all think I do for a living? And they said, well, you sell hamburgers. He said, no, I'm in the real estate business. One cool thing my dad taught me was, as I would buy these pieces of property and build the buildings, I retained the ownership of the land and building. And then the business was a different company. So I had a land and building company and then a business side of the company. And that's what I sold, was the business side of the company. Kept a lot of the real estate, and that kind of has long-term benefits where they pay me rent for the rest of my life, which is pretty cool. So at 45 years old, I sold all these restaurants, and life was pretty cool. I was in the stake presidency in my stake for 10 years, and then got called to be a bishop during all this, and still the bishop right now. But in the middle of my retirement, which lasted about 6 months, I started a company, this construction company. About 3 or 4 years ago, you realized that you couldn't build a house fast enough that you'd have it sold. It's a little different today, in today's market. The construction business is horrible. But we started a construction company, hired a couple of guys from BYU, construction management guys. Any majors in here, construction management guys? Nobody? Okay, smart. You're all smart. Hired a couple of guys. We started building houses. That was our first one. There we go. And what was cool about this was you'd actually see a lot, and you'd see what you end up doing to it and see a pretty end product. And that was always fun. And Sonic, it was great, too. I loved it at Sonic when we'd turn the lights on the day we were opening, and you took an empty lot, and it became that. That was kind of cool with the house business as well. And then to see somebody have a home because you built it for them, that was pretty cool. That's a house that I built. It's been finished for about 7 months. It's still for sale. It's $1.4 million. Anybody who's interested? Kind of sucks right now because that $1.4 million house, I'm paying about $6,000 a month in interest. It's just sitting there. Fortunately, we're down to 6 houses we have for sale, so we did okay with the market. I took all my guys that were building houses, and we're doing remodeling now. So we started a remodeling, this one here, Superior Remodeling Company, and didn't have to fire anybody. Everybody's just doing remodels. A lot of people, instead of buying new houses now, are putting granite countertops and fixing their roofs and fixing the kitchens and the bathrooms and all. So that's pretty cool. On top of the construction business, we thought we'd get in the mortgage business. We opened our own mortgage company, made a ton of money until the government did what they did to us. And then I thought of another way that we could make money on these deals was to get my realtor's license. So I actually went out and got my realtor's license so that I could put the houses for sale and save 3% on every house that we built, which is a lot of money. If you realize on a $1.4 million house, the realtor gets $42,000. So I saved that by becoming a realtor. And the test was so easy. I recommend it if anybody was bored. This remodeling company was sweet, though. And the reason, this is actually a truck. This is the little thing we put on the truck. And the reason I did that, put it on that truck, because it matches my boat, which I think is on here somewhere else later. Another thing that I've done recently is, these is a mini warehouse units that I purchased. The reason for doing that is my son-in-law, he's from Utah, and he married my daughter. They met here at BYU, and they got married. He's out there getting his MBA right now. So I bought this because and made him my partner, and my hopes is that he'll stay out there. In fact, he has to now because he owns half of that. So, and then on top of that, we actually went a step further, and we have a lot that we're a 4-acre lot that we're actually parking boats and RVs and those kind of trailers and stuff on it, and that is just producing a lot of income. This unit that he and I purchased, cash flow is about $5,000 a month. So he gets half of that, so he's making $2,500 a month while he's getting his MBA. So it's a pretty sweet deal. I mean, he has to go and get the checks out of the box and put them in the bank and little stuff like that. And so, pretty sweet job. That's kind of my career and how things turned out for me. And I hope that by sharing that story with you, I didn't want to come and brag that I made all this money flipping burgers and stuff, but I did. And I just thought that maybe you guys would get something from it and maybe be able to grow your business. But one thing I want to share with you, kind of non-entrepreneurial related, but it is somewhat, is how to keep a balance in your life. Because so many of us get all enthralled in work and work 100 hours a week and lose perspective of other things. And I made some mistakes in my life. And I thought I'd share a few things with you to help you. This is not a pie. This is a hamburger. You cut your hamburger into 4 different slices, and the first is, of course, your career or your education. Right now, y'all's balance wheel is messed up bad because I was talking to Kimberly Lambert in the back. Everything's about school right now. Everything. Your balance, you don't have a quarter on school right now. You're probably more 3/4. And then this quarter over here is probably just social life and having fun. Maybe a little bitty hymnal coordinator or something right there. You know, so your life is kind of out of balance right now, and that's okay. There's times in your life that it is. When I was working 100 hours a week, it's okay. I had to do that for a while. But I knew where I was going. I knew how long I was going to have to do it. Oh, you're at BYU. Great game. We've got football players in here right now. You guys are awesome. Great game Saturday. My career was Sonic, so I spent a lot of time in that. The other part that's extremely important is family. I probably would put that number 1, of course, being a bishop. I would put that number 1 in your quadrant of your hamburger. So important that you spend time with your family. Entrepreneurs, your spouses are so important. You have to find time to spend with them and to make them feel like they're important and part of your family. That's my family, my immediate family. This is the kid that's getting his MBA right now, Blake. He's from Utah. And he married my daughter, Danielle. She graduated BYU in 2002. No, she didn't. High school in 2002. Here was 2006. So they're married. And that's my son right here. He's going to Southern Virginia University right now. And you see everybody's wearing Ironman shirts. My daughter's done the Ironman. My son-in-law's done the Ironman. My wife refuses to do the Ironman. That's her right there. That's Danielle graduating from BYU. And Terry. That's my grandson. Cute! Come on, girls. Aw, thank you. Isn't he cute? His name's Caleb. He's 8 months old now, so that was about 3 or 4 months. So he's actually got hair now. There he is. Look at his hairdo. Isn't that sweet? Kind of flips back like the Back to the Future guy, that weird guy in Back to the Future. So that's Caleb. That's my dad. He and I on a Harley. That's just one example of what my dad and I do. We have had so many great trips together. We're big football fans. We used to go to all Monday night football games wherever they were over the country. He and I played golf this morning at Hobble Creek and came here today. Went to the BYU game. We got to be down in the field with some of the football players on Saturday. This Thursday, we're flying to Boston to see the Red Sox-Yankees game. And it's so important that you do stuff. And my dad's not getting any younger. He's getting better looking, but he's not getting any younger. So it's nice hanging out with my dad. If those of you that think your life is pretty tough, my dad adopted me. I have 8 different parents in my life, 35 stepbrothers and sisters. Life wasn't easy. Went through a divorce early when I was young. And you can still be successful no matter what obstacles are put in your way. Just wanted you to know that. The other little quadrant is church and or community. Some of you may not be LDS, and that's cool. You will be someday. But community is so important. I'm on the board of directors for the local YMCA in our town. I'm a member of Rotary Club. I'm a referee. I referee high school basketball now. I refereed Special Olympics. In church, I've been in stake presidency for 10 years. I'm bishop now for 3.5 years. You can still do business and stay active in the church. You can do both. That's our little temple in Nashville we love. That's me in a stake presidency, Special Olympics. You know, there's so many things that you can do in your community and in your church. Never say no to a calling. The Lord will bless you. He'll bless your business if you serve faithfully in your callings. Pay your tithing. Dude, if you don't pay your tithing, you're going to fail in business, I promise you. I promise you. One of my goals, my dad's goals, was to pay $1 million a year in tithing. How cool would that be? That means you make $9 million. Pretty awesome concept. It's my car. Pretty cool. I'm a rookie at PowerPoint, but the other quadrant is yourself. You know, it's so important that you are happy. And if you're not happy, then your employees aren't going to be happy. And nobody's going to be. Your wife won't be happy. Your husband won't be happy. Your kids won't be happy. You need to be happy. Find time for yourself and find time to be happy. Sorry, the wrong way. My family's huge into the wakeboard. Christina Chatfield here, she's like the best wakeboarder in the room right here. That's my boat. That's why we got that color truck, because it matched my boat really cool. That's me. My dad and I have been to Scotland to play golf in Scotland. I've been to Russia. I've been all over the world. Being an entrepreneur lets you do stuff like this. It's so cool. Nobody tells you have to be at work from 9 to 5. You work if you have to be there. And you do what you have to do to make your business successful. That's what's so cool about being an entrepreneur, is you can do other things in your life and really enjoy life. He said, I've done Ironman. I do Ironman races. About 6 years ago, what happened was, you know Jack in the Box? I call it Jack in the Junk, Jack in the Crap, whatever. They came to Nashville, and check this story out. This is amazing. They're coming to Nashville, and there wasn't a Jack in the Box in Nashville. Well, this girl, I was in the stake presidency, and we're going on this youth trip to Nauvoo, and this girl comes on the trip, and I'm like, who are you? I've never met you. Her name's Mandy. And her dad, she says, is moving to Nashville, and he's going to open a Jack in the Box across the street from every one of your Sonics and put you out of business. That's how she introduced herself. I'm like, okay, I hate you. Well, I found out that her dad was a really cool guy, and I got to know him. And I found out that he had done a triathlon. So I'm going to up this guy. So I signed up for Ironman because he did a little sprint, right, which is a little wimpy one. Well, Ironman, that's 2.5-mile swim, 112 miles on the bike, and then a marathon, all in the same day, same race. So I signed up for it, and then I challenged him. He signed up for it, and I kicked his trash by 2 hours. So during this time, this Jack in the Box guy and I, during this time of training for Ironman together, I start to egg him on, like, you know, because he built 16 Jack in the Boxes in Nashville. We have 100 Sonics, but he had built just 16 of them. And I kept asking him, you know, how much ownership do you have Well, none. It's corporate. Well, surely you own part of the land and building, loser. And he said, no, I don't. So it ended up, he's the one that bought my franchise from me. He's now a Sonic franchisee. He quit Jack in the Box. And he owns every Sonic now from Rexburg to St. George, all the way up down the I-15 corridor. He's got 85 stores now in a short matter of years. And just been awesome. But he's never beat me in Ironman, so that's pretty cool. Oh, that was my daughter. My daughter did the Ironman race just before she had the baby, which was pretty cool. So that's kind of my balance wheel. I hope that you all will remember that. If nothing else from my presentation, that you'll remember to keep your life in balance. It's so important, and it will make you very happy. There again, I flip burgers for a living, and I'm proud of it. Thank you. All right.